How Saudi Arabia is turning their desert into green farmland. In recent years, Saudi Arabia has made incredible strides in the agricultural sector, which is something everyone is aware of. Agricultural fields now cover a large portion of what was once desert. Since the normal annual rainfall in this country is only 4 inches, this change can be considered a significant one. Today's video will explain the Saudi Arabian government's plans to transform its deserts into vast agricultural regions. Hold on tight, and we'll start today's video. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is commonly referred to as the Kingdom of the Desert. When oil was discovered, the country's economy boomed. Billion-dollar oil revenues are used to power various facets of the economy and the lives of the people who live there. Among these is the kingdom's food supply, which relies on oil money to import over 80% of its essential food. Only about 1.5% of Saudi Arabia's land is suitable for agriculture, and the country's agriculture, such as it is, uses up to 80% of the water resources. Despite the fact that the kingdom is no longer hungry, people who care about Saudi Arabia's long-term viability and the possibility of catastrophic disruptions to the world's food supply have put a lot of thought into the agricultural sector. The 1970s were a pivotal decade for the kingdom's agriculture sector. In addition, Saudi Arabia has become one of the world's leading exporters of wheat by the 1990s. Dates, vegetables, fruits, and dairy products are also exported. Picture Saudi Arabia in your mind. What do you picture when you hear the phrase Arabian Peninsula? Probably a scorching sun, a harsh climate, and lots of sand dunes. And how did Saudi become a major exporter of wheat? How did this happen? There seems to be something happening in the country if we go into the specifics. Let's find out now. Huge circular greeneries can be found all across the country as a result of a government initiative to promote modern farming techniques, which included the building of irrigation networks, storage, and export facilities, as well as the encouragement of agriculture research and training institutions. And even though they're in the midst of the desert, they can be farmed. Surprisingly, Saudi Arabia has turned 24,000 square kilometers of desert into farmland in just the last 60 years. Saudi Arabia was a region of rolling meadows and woods about 10,000 years ago, kept lush by heavy monsoon downpours. Nevertheless, engineers have recently tapped into this old water source, allowing the nation to meet its water demands. In aquifers up to a kilometer below the surface, this fossil water remained undisturbed for millions of years. These strategies proved fruitful. Saudi Arabia now uses this water for extensive crops and milk production. A more frugal approach to irrigation is unnecessary. The central pivot irrigation technique was one of the most effective means for this goal. The technology has been successful enough in Saudi Arabia that it was named after its inventor, a Colorado farmer called Frank Cy Buck. Center pivots, as the name suggests, irrigate in a circle around a central pivot point, and in addition to water, they can also provide chemical fertilizers and herbicides. Thus, the efficiency of the irrigation system as a whole was increased by employing a single piece of machinery. It's been 50 years since Saudi Arabia started constructing central pivot systems. However, because the Arabian Peninsula receives so little precipitation, its aquifers are almost completely depleted. When discussing the western Saudi Arabian mountains, most precipitation is wasted because it simply runs back into the ocean. This means that Saudi Arabia is losing water, which has an impact on its ability to produce enough food to feed its people. In a strategic move, Saudi Arabia has acquired farmland in the United States, Indonesia, Argentina, and several African countries. Looking back through time, we see that as urbanization and modernity progressed, the government forced the Bedouin tribes to settle in one area, where the rich grounds were eventually turned into a rocky desert as a result of overgrazing. In response, 2 Saudi royal princesses funded a development project in the region, which was directed by bioethicist Mona Hamadi of Harvard University and permaculturist Neil Spackman of Stanford University. To conserve water, they spent 8 years living among the Bedouin villages, where they erected rock terraces, check dams, and shallow ditches. The project was in jeopardy after funding was slashed in 2016. The mountain terraces captured the rain and revitalized the soil, and in 2018 and 2019, the region once again became a savanna. The next project will begin shortly after that one finishes. The Floodwaters Albedo project domain is popular in the country since it flows into the ocean. If the whole west coast is included in the project, 30 million acres of land may be turned into agricultural areas, but this would take a lot of time and money. An increase of as much as 5% in GDP is possible if Saudi Arabia's agricultural capacity is increased by a factor of at least 6. With carbon emissions being linked to fertile soil once more, rainfall can return to the area, providing residents with the fresh water they need to stave off the effects of desertification. Saudi Arabia is also employing a different strategy, desalinating saltwater using the solid nation plains to produce fresh water. Desalination can be done in 2 ways, using thermal gases or with a membrane-based reverse osmosis system that is powered by electricity. The use of nuclear power to generate this electricity is acknowledged. To keep things straight then, in order to turn desert into garden, we need water, and in order to get water, we need to consolidate it for desalination, and for that, nuclear energy is needed. In addition to all of this, infrastructure has been put in place to treat urban and industrial runoff for agricultural irrigation, and a promising new technique called liquid nanoclay, LNC, may play a key role in this effort. In the present day, this is used and can reduce water usage by 50%. However, the price tag is hefty. The LNC process coats the sand with clay, increasing its ability to retain water. The agricultural system in Saudi Arabia has benefited from the country's dedication of resources to research. Alright, here is the end of the video for today. Send us your thoughts on the agriculture system in Saudi Arabia in the comments. It would mean a lot if you could hit the like button, and if you miss out on subscribing to our YouTube channel, then you'll burn under the scorching sun of Saudi Arabia, so you'd better subscribe. We hope to see you soon.